Hello, everyone. And now we are moving towards the latter end of the course, and I just wanted to go over our policy analysis. Again, I know I spoke about this in your response, in a response to your previous discussion post, but I know some of you are still thinking about how to frame this, and I provided some feedback for your policy analysis number one. And just to remind you all that we have lots of resources for you through our library. Even though we're doing everything via online, the librarians are at the ready to help you on this project. The and to keep this consistent with our first paper and not have you begin a completely different topic, I stuck with the concept or the institution of the prison, but the prison as it is extended to dealing with migrants or refugees, and how has that expanded? What policies have enabled this to rise? I will also be posting a brief talk that I use in my Latinx politics class by Kelly Lida Hernandez, which might be helpful, and you can look through some of her resources. There's tons of academic research. This is a major topic, not only in academic circles. We know this is very real, has real policy implications. We know now under COVID um, that that the rise in the disease behind these walls has risen and is a big threat. Has created a lot of chaos behind these prison walls. So there's a lot of issues as we're thinking about it. Um, but just to remind us, you want to in that first for the first policy paper I gave you, I provided a brief overview on the structure. So I laid out the outline. Go back and just review that video if you want to go see how to lay out the introduction, what is the problem, and follow through. And you can even label each section in that manner if that allows you to develop the paper and you know you're following and meeting each section, the needs of each section. So you'll begin by evaluating the debates over migration and the rise of detention, which are very much out there. Um, so consider the arbitrary application of immigration law, removal of asylum as a legal process, family separation, privatization, and everything that is laid out across the carceral landscape. Secondly, develop your analysis of the specific problem issue within the realm of this detention and possible solutions. So this is the key. This is the final component. Once you've analyzed and you've developed an argument based again on social science academic research. Right? That's what we're doing as students, trying to remove ourselves from a lot of the heated sound bites that exist out in society, out in the mainstream corporate media, things that we hear on the street, people at the level of opinion stating certain things. What we are relying on as academics, as students, is what does the research say, right? How do we get to the facts behind all the noise that exists in our society about this particular issue? What does the research say? And how are you using that research to support your policy solution? Right? Or your analysis as you're moving to your policy solution. These are building blocks that you're laying out in the end to convince those who have the power to uh, shift policy or codify a certain rule or piece of legislation, whatever you're recommending on this issue. Okay, and that is all developed from there. So this is a very short paper, which kind of forces us to be very concise and become better writers in that sense. So part of the issues writing, editing, making sure that you've tightened up a lot of the language. Use our DVC library databases. If you have access to a UC library database or Cal State database or any other institution of higher learning, which they have access to many more um, forms of knowledge. because they're able to pay for these through the paywalls to get access to these academic journals. Please do that, but also be wary of finding things online that are not valid, um, that are just some piece of op-ed or something. Okay, so when here I have provided a couple links to our DVC library. If you have any questions on the sources, the validity of the sources, you can chat with a librarian, you can set up an appointment, and you have a link here that will answer all your questions on that. Use any citation format, but be sure that you're providing the citations for all the research that you've used, and provide your list of research sources that you've used. And there is the link for the DVC library. So as I mentioned, this is 40 points, your final paper, a minimum of 750 words. Now that is bare minimum, right? That is 3 pages. I've just barely met the guidelines. But as I mentioned, a well thought out paper will extend beyond this minimum. For an A-level paper, you will have developed your position with academic support, which may go into 5 or 6 pages. Those are the papers that I've received, from the first time. Those folks who really pushed it, really showed the effort, right? That's what I'm relying on, is what is your effort that you're putting in here? And that's what I value most. I know all of us come into this American government class, as I mentioned, at different levels. We're not political science majors, not all of us, probably the majority in this class, but how much effort? And what is the takeaway? Again, there are so many political topics that we could focus on. We can write on anything. And I wish we had the time to continue to keep going. What I wanted to do in this course is introduce you in this introductory course to how that concept from chapter 1, inegalitarianism, alongside the traditions of classical republicanism and classical liberalism, have shaped our nation, and continue to shape our nation, as are intertwined with inegalitarianism, the tradition of excluding large segments of society based on sexuality, disability, gender, class, race, and all of the above. So I hope now, as we're leaving with our final paper, that this really makes a lot more sense to us, that there is no simple answer or simple analysis, that it is not one of these categories above and all others. It is all of these, and structuring how power is disseminated throughout society. So when we back to the immigrant prison, what is your solution? And how do all these categories that I just mentioned, that concept of inegalitarianism is central into seeing how naturalization law was fundamentally shaped in 1790, was fundamentally racialized. Remember that law, the 1790 naturalization law that we began our course with? Who is the American citizen, who was able to be citizen? So we know that was based on very exclusive attributes. And how does that continue to shape the prison, specifically the immigrant prison, for this paper? So these are things to think about. If you have further questions, just zoom in for any of the student hours. Sign up. You have the sign up times, Monday through Thursday, 11 through 12. I have all this. Just sign up, and we'll zoom in. We can talk about this. All right. So, and I hope everybody's doing well. I know these are tough times. Hang in there. We're almost there. We're in this, together, and we'll be online. It seems for a little bit more. And I know even those of us, in this online course, I teach many face-to-face courses that I had to move over. But even those of us who began online, there was still our life outside of this online course was disrupted. And I've taken all that into account. And we're here doing it. Let me know if you need anything. Contact me immediately. And those of you who have, we're working through this together. So I'll talk to you soon. Have any questions, reach out to me, or I'll see you on Confer Zoom.